Breaking: Jey Uso just stabbed his own twin brother in the back and I'm absolutely disgusted by what happened. I am completely speechless and furious right now because what Jey Uso just did to his twin brother Jimmy during the Battle Royal on WWE Raw is the most disgusting, heartbreaking, and unforgivable act of betrayal I have ever witnessed in professional wrestling. Jey Uso, the man who spent years preaching about family loyalty, the man who stood by his brother through everything, just eliminated his own twin brother from a Battle Royal in the most cruel and calculated way possible, and I am enraged because this proves that Jey Uso is nothing but a selfish, backstabbing hypocrite who will sacrifice anyone, even his own blood, for personal gain. And here's what's making me absolutely livid right now: this wasn't a heat-of-the-moment accident. This wasn't a miscommunication or a mistake. Jey Uso looked Jimmy directly in the eyes. They had a moment where Jimmy trusted his twin brother completely, and then Jey threw Jimmy over the top rope and eliminated him without hesitation. The same Jey Uso who cried about family loyalty for years just proved that when it comes down to it, he cares more about winning than he cares about his own twin brother. But I need to know from you right now, are you as disgusted as I am by Jey's betrayal, or do you think Jimmy deserved this for some reason we don't know about? Is this the most shocking twin betrayal in wrestling history, or have we seen worse? Should Jimmy ever forgive Jey for this, or is their brotherhood permanently destroyed? Tell me right now in the comments what your immediate reaction was, because what I'm about to reveal about what led to this betrayal, the look on Jimmy's face when it happened, and how this destroys everything the Usos have built over their legendary career is going to make you absolutely furious and heartbroken. Let me set the stage for you because understanding the context of this battle royal makes Jey's betrayal even more shocking and even more unforgivable. WWE announced a 30-man battle royal on Raw with huge stakes. The winner would receive a championship opportunity at an upcoming premium live event. This wasn't just a random battle royal, this was career-defining. This was the kind of opportunity that could elevate someone to the main event picture. Both Jey Uso and Jimmy Uso were entered into the battle royal. Before the match, they were shown backstage having a conversation where they discussed strategy. They talked about how they'd work together to eliminate other competitors, and then when it came down to just the two of them at the end, they'd have a fair fight to determine who won. It was a beautiful moment that showed the bond between brothers. They were acknowledging that they were both competitors who wanted to win, but they were also brothers who would support each other and fight fairly when the time came. Jimmy specifically said, no matter what happens out there, we're brothers first. We'll tear through everyone else together, and if it comes down to us at the end, may the best man win. Jey nodded and agreed. They did their signature Uso handshake. They seemed completely on the same page about how this would go down. Quick question: have you ever had to compete against a family member or close friend? How did you handle it? Tell me in the comments. The battle royal started and, true to their word, the Usos were absolutely dominant. They were working together perfectly, using their tag team chemistry to eliminate competitor after competitor. They were executing double-team moves, they were protecting each other's backs, they were showing why they're considered the greatest tag team of their generation. The crowd was into it. Fans were chanting for the Usos. Even though this was a singles competition, fans loved seeing the brothers working together and demonstrating their bond. As the match progressed, the Usos systematically eliminated most of the competition. They were clearing the ring of threat after threat. It looked like their strategy was working perfectly and it was going to come down to them at the end just like they discussed. This is where things took a dark turn that nobody saw coming. There were about 5 competitors left in the battle royal, including both Usos. The remaining wrestlers were all exhausted and battling near the ropes. Jimmy was engaged with another competitor near one side of the ring. Jey was dealing with someone on the opposite side. Jimmy successfully eliminated his opponent, a huge accomplishment that put him one step closer to winning. Jimmy turned around, excited, ready to help Jey eliminate the remaining competitors so they could get to their promised one-on-one competition at the end. But as Jimmy turned, he saw something that made him pause. Jey had stopped fighting. Jey was just standing there, watching Jimmy, with an expression on his face that was impossible to read. It wasn't the excited expression of a tag team partner celebrating success. It was something cold, something calculating, something wrong. Jimmy walked toward Jey, confused. You could see it on Jimmy's face, he was trying to figure out why Jey had stopped fighting. Was Jey injured? Was something wrong? Jimmy was genuinely concerned for his brother. They met in the middle of the ring. The other remaining competitors were recovering in the corners, giving the Usos this moment. Jimmy put his hand on Jey's shoulder and asked if he was okay. You could read Jimmy's lips saying "you good, us," and that's when Jey's expression changed completely. A coldness came over his face. His eyes hardened. And without any warning, without any hesitation, Jey grabbed Jimmy and started dragging him toward the ropes. Have you ever had someone you completely trusted betray you? What did that moment feel like? Tell me in the comments. Jimmy was in shock. He wasn't fighting back at first because he couldn't process what was happening. His own twin brother, the person he trusted more than anyone in the world, was trying to eliminate him from the battle royal. But Jey was determined. Jey lifted Jimmy up, got him onto the ropes, and despite Jimmy finally starting to fight back and resist, Jey threw his own brother over the top rope and eliminated him from the match. The sound of the bell ringing to confirm Jimmy's elimination echoed through the arena like a death knell for their brotherhood. What happened immediately after the elimination was absolutely heartbreaking and revealed the full extent of this betrayal. Jimmy landed on the floor outside the ring, eliminated. He slowly got to his feet, his face showing complete shock and disbelief. Jimmy stared up at Jey in the ring, and you could see Jimmy's heart breaking in real time. Jey stood at the ropes looking down at Jimmy. For a brief moment, you could see something like regret or conflict flash across Jey's face. But then Jey's expression hardened again and he turned his back on Jimmy, focusing on the remaining competitors in the Battle Royal. That turning of the back was symbolic. Jey wasn't just eliminating Jimmy from a match, he was turning his back on their entire relationship, their brotherhood, their legacy together. Jimmy continued standing at ringside, not moving, just staring at Jey in complete disbelief. Other wrestlers who had been eliminated earlier tried to talk to Jimmy, but Jimmy wasn't listening. He was in shock, processing the fact that his own twin brother had just betrayed him. The match continued with Jey now fighting the remaining competitors by himself. And here's the thing that makes this even worse, Jey went on to win the Battle Royal. Jey eliminated the remaining competitors and won the championship opportunity. So this wasn't just a betrayal, it was a successful betrayal. Jey's decision to stab his brother in the back actually paid off for him. He got exactly what he wanted by eliminating Jimmy before they could have their promised fair fight at the end. Do you think winning justifies Jey's actions? Is success worth betraying family? Tell me your philosophy in the comments. What Jey did after winning made this betrayal even more despicable and unforgivable. Jey celebrated his victory like it was the greatest moment of his career. He was jumping around the ring, arms raised in triumph, soaking in the mixed reaction from the crowd. Some were cheering the victory, others were booing the betrayal. But here's the part that made my blood boil. Jimmy was still standing at ringside, still in shock, still processing what had happened. And Jey looked directly at Jimmy while celebrating. Jey knew Jimmy was watching. Jey knew his brother was heartbroken. And Jey celebrated anyway. That's not just winning a match, that's psychological torture. That's rubbing salt in the wound. That's making it clear that Jey doesn't just prioritize winning over family, he's willing to hurt his family and then celebrate that hurt. Jimmy finally started walking to the back, his head down, his body language showing complete devastation. But before Jimmy disappeared through the curtain, he stopped and looked back one more time at Jey celebrating in the ring. That final look between the brothers was captured perfectly by the cameras. Jimmy's face showed betrayal, hurt, confusion, and anger all at once. Jey's face showed determination and a coldness that we've never seen from him before. And then Jimmy walked through the curtain and disappeared, potentially walking away from his brother forever. The commentary team's reaction to this betrayal was perfect and really sold how shocking and devastating this moment was. The commentators were in genuine shock. You could hear it in their voices, this wasn't scripted surprise, this was real disbelief at what they had just witnessed. They were struggling to find words to describe what had happened. One commentator said, "I can't believe what we just saw. Jey Uso just eliminated his own twin brother. His twin brother. The person he's been connected to since birth. How do you come back from something like that?" Another commentator added, "We've seen the Usos overcome every obstacle together. They've been the greatest tag team of their generation because of their bond. And Jey just destroyed that bond for a championship opportunity. Was it worth it?" The commentary continued discussing the implications throughout the rest of the show. They kept coming back to the betrayal, analyzing it from every angle, expressing disbelief and disappointment. The commentary team perfectly captured what every fan was feeling: shock, disappointment, and genuine concern for what this means for the Usos' future. What was your immediate reaction when Jey eliminated Jimmy? Were you shocked, angry, sad? Tell me. After commercial break, WWE showed us what happened backstage immediately after the match, and it was absolutely brutal to watch. Jimmy was in the locker room area, sitting alone, his head in his hands. You could see he'd been crying. His eyes were red. He looked absolutely devastated, not just by losing the match, but by how he lost it. Several other wrestlers approached Jimmy to check on him, but Jimmy waved them all away. He didn't want sympathy. He didn't want comfort. He just wanted to be alone with his heartbreak. And then Jey walked into the locker room area, still riding high from his victory. The moment Jimmy saw Jey, Jimmy stood up and they had a confrontation that was uncomfortable and heartbreaking to witness. Jimmy said, "Why, Jey? We had an agreement. We were supposed to work together and then fight fair at the end. Why did you do that?" Jey's response was cold and revealed a side of him we've never seen before. Jey said, "Because I wanted to win, us. That's why. This business is about winning. It's not about fairness. It's not about keeping promises. It's about doing whatever it takes to get what you want. And I wanted the championship opportunity more than I wanted to keep a promise to you." The words coming out of Jey's mouth were so harsh, so contrary to everything the Usos have always stood for. that Jimmy actually stepped back like he'd been physically hit. Jimmy said, "We're brothers, G. We're twins. We've been through everything together. How can you throw that away for a match?" G responded, "Maybe being brothers has been holding us both back, oos. Maybe we've been so focused on tag team wrestling, on being the Usos, that we've forgotten we're individuals with our own goals and our own ambitions. I did what I had to do for my career. Not our career. Mine." Have you ever had someone close to you reveal a side of themselves you never knew existed? How did you handle it? Tell me. What happened next was one of the most emotional moments in WWE this year. Jimmy's face went through a range of emotions: anger, hurt, disbelief, and finally something like acceptance that the brother he thought he knew was gone. Jimmy said, his voice breaking, "You know what, G? You're right. We have been through everything together. We fought Roman together when he was trying to control us. We left the Bloodline together when it became toxic. We rebuilt our careers together. We became the longest reigning tag team champions together. But you just threw all of that away. So go ahead. Enjoy your championship opportunity. Enjoy your singles career. But don't ever call me your brother again." Those last words hit like a bomb. Jimmy was officially ending their brotherhood. Not just their tag team, but their actual relationship as brothers. G's expression finally showed some emotion: surprise, maybe regret, maybe hurt. But he didn't take back what he said. He didn't apologize. He just stood there as Jimmy walked past him and left. The segment ended with G standing alone in the locker room, having won his match but potentially lost his brother forever. It was powerful, emotional storytelling that has fans absolutely divided about who's right and who's wrong in this situation. To fully understand why this betrayal is so shocking, we need to look at the Usos' history together. G and Jimmy Uso have been a team since they entered WWE. They've always been presented as inseparable. Their entire identity has been built around their brotherhood and their tag team chemistry. The Usos became the longest reigning tag team champions in WWE history. They revolutionized tag team wrestling. They had incredible matches with virtually every major tag team. They elevated the tag team division. But more than their wrestling accomplishments, the Usos were known for their loyalty to each other. When the Bloodline was at its peak and Roman was psychologically torturing G, Jimmy stood by G. When they both eventually left the Bloodline, they left together. The Usos represented brotherhood, loyalty, and family in the purest sense. They showed that you could be successful and maintain your integrity and your relationships. That's what makes this betrayal so devastating. G didn't just eliminate Jimmy from a battle royal. G destroyed everything the Usos represented. G proved that even the strongest brotherhood can be broken when individual ambition gets involved. What's your favorite Usos moment from their tag team career? Share it in the comments as we remember what they built together. This betrayal has interesting and uncomfortable parallels to the Usos' history with Roman Reigns. Roman spent years psychologically manipulating the Usos, particularly G. Roman demanded loyalty, demanded acknowledgement, and punished any sign of independence. Roman created a toxic family dynamic where everyone had to serve his interests or be cast aside. The Usos eventually left the Bloodline specifically because they couldn't handle the toxicity anymore. They wanted to be their own men, not Roman's servants. But now, G has done to Jimmy exactly what Roman did to both of them. G has prioritized his own ambition over family loyalty. G has shown that he's willing to hurt his family to get what he wants. Has G become what he hated about Roman? Has G learned the wrong lessons from his time in the Bloodline? That's the dark question this storyline is asking, and it's making fans extremely uncomfortable because we like G as the sympathetic babyface who valued family above all else. Do you think G has become like Roman Reigns? Has he learned the wrong lessons from the Bloodline experience? Tell me. The fan reaction to this betrayal has been explosive and shows how effective this storytelling is. Social media immediately exploded with reactions. Fans were posting shocked gifs, emotional responses, and hot takes about what this means for the Usos' future. Some fans are furious at G. They're calling him a traitor, a hypocrite, and saying they'll never be able to root for him again. These fans feel that G betrayed not just Jimmy, but every fan who believed in the Usos' message of brotherhood and loyalty. Other fans are actually supporting G's decision. They're saying that G has been in Jimmy's shadow for years and deserves his own moment to shine. They're arguing that family shouldn't hold you back from pursuing your dreams and ambitions. Still, other fans are heartbroken and emotional about the betrayal. They're posting about how they've watched the Usos for years and can't believe it's ending this way. They're comparing it to their own experiences with family conflict and betrayal. The division among fans is exactly what WWE wants. This is the kind of storyline that generates passionate debate, gets people emotionally invested, and makes them tune in every week to see what happens next. Let's try to understand G's psychology and what might have motivated this betrayal, even though it's difficult to justify what he did. G has been in a tag team his entire WWE career. He's never had a significant singles run. Every accomplishment, every moment, every championship has been as part of the Usos. That has to create some frustration and some desire to prove himself as an individual. Jey might feel like he's never been seen as his own person, always just half of the Usos. Additionally, Jey's time in the Bloodline showed him what it's like to be in the main event picture. When Jey had his feud with Roman, when Jey was the focus of storylines, he was in the biggest moments WWE has to offer. That's addictive. Going back to just being a tag team wrestler after tasting that main event spotlight might have made Jey hungry for more. This battle royal represented an opportunity to get back to that level, and Jey decided that opportunity was worth sacrificing his brother. That doesn't justify what Jey did, but it makes his motivation understandable from a psychological perspective. Jey chose ambition over loyalty. He chose personal success over brotherhood. Whether that was the right choice is for fans to debate. Can you understand Jey's motivation even if you don't agree with his actions? Tell me if you can see both sides. The big question now is, what does Jimmy do next? How does he respond to this betrayal? Jimmy has several potential paths forward. Path 1: Revenge. Jimmy could dedicate himself to destroying Jey's singles career. Every time Jey has a big match, Jimmy interferes. Every time Jey is close to winning something, Jimmy sabotages it. This would be classic revenge storytelling. Path 2: Moving on. Jimmy could simply move on with his own career, treating Jey like he doesn't exist. Jimmy could pursue his own singles opportunities and prove he doesn't need Jey to be successful. Path 3: Redemption arc. Jimmy could try to be the bigger person, offering forgiveness and trying to repair their brotherhood. This would be the most mature path but might make Jimmy look weak. Path 4: Heel turn. Jimmy could use this betrayal as motivation to become a villain himself, deciding that if brotherhood doesn't matter, he'll embrace ruthless individual ambition too. My prediction? I think Jimmy is going to pursue revenge in the short term, but eventually this leads to both brothers realizing they're better together than apart, resulting in an eventual reunion. But that reunion is probably months away at minimum. What path do you want to see Jimmy take? Which would make the best storyline? Tell me. This breakup has huge implications for WWE's tag team division. The Usos were the anchor of the tag team division. They were the standard against which every other team was measured. Their matches were consistently the best tag team matches on any given show. Without the Usos as a team, the tag team division loses its most credible and accomplished team. Yes, there are other good tag teams, but none have the Usos' combination of longevity, chemistry, and accomplishment. WWE will need to elevate other teams to fill the void left by the Usos' breakup. That's both a challenge and an opportunity. Teams that have been in the Usos' shadow might finally get their moment to shine, but it's also a loss for tag team wrestling generally. The breakup of the Usos sends a message that tag team wrestling is less important than singles wrestling, that being in a tag team is something you do until you can have a real singles career. That's the wrong message for tag team wrestling as a discipline and an art form. Do you think tag team wrestling will suffer without the Usos, or will other teams step up to fill the void? Tell me. Let's not forget that Jey won this battle royal and earned a championship opportunity. That opportunity is going to be significant moving forward. Jey will likely challenge for either the World Heavyweight Championship or the WWE Championship at an upcoming premium live event. This is Jey's chance to prove that his betrayal was worth it by actually winning the championship. But here's the interesting storytelling question: should Jey win the championship after betraying his brother? Does WWE reward the betrayal by giving Jey the ultimate prize? Or does WWE make Jey fail, showing that success built on betrayal is hollow? My guess is that Jey will come close to winning the championship but ultimately fail, possibly with Jimmy costing him the match as revenge. That would be poetic justice and would set up the next chapter of their feud. But there's also the possibility that Jey does win the championship, and then Jimmy spends months trying to take it away from him. That would give both brothers strong motivation and clear goals. Either way, the championship opportunity is what made this betrayal happen, so the championship match will be crucial to the ongoing story. Do you think Jey should win the championship, or should he fail as punishment for his betrayal? Tell me what would be just. WWE is clearly planning a long-term story here that will probably play out over the next 6 months to a year. Let me predict how I think this story will develop. Phase 1, current Jey and Jimmy are separated and feuding. Jimmy wants revenge. Jey is pursuing singles success and justifying his betrayal as necessary for his career. Phase 2, Jey achieves some singles success but realizes it's empty without his brother to share it with. Meanwhile, Jimmy struggles as a singles competitor and realizes he misses having Jey as his partner. Phase 3, both brothers hit rock bottom in their separate careers, forcing them to confront whether their breakup was worth it. Phase 4, reconciliation. Something happens, probably involving a common enemy like Roman or another heel faction, that forces them to work together again. They realize they're better together. Phase 5, the Usos reunite, stronger than ever, and reclaim their position as the greatest tag team in WWE. That's the story structure that makes sense. betrayal, separation, individual struggles, hitting bottom, realization, and eventual reconciliation. It's classic storytelling that works. The key is that WWE takes their time with each phase and doesn't rush the reunion. The longer the Usos are separated, the more meaningful their eventual reunion will be. How long do you think it will be before the Usos reunite? Or do you think they should stay separated permanently? Tell me. At its core, the storyline is about the tension between individual ambition and family loyalty. It's about whether success is meaningful if it costs you your most important relationships. It's about whether betrayal can ever truly be justified. These are real questions that people deal with in their actual lives. How many people have sacrificed relationships for career advancement? How many people have chosen personal ambition over family obligations? How many people have betrayed people they love in pursuit of their goals? That's why this storyline resonates so powerfully. It's not just about wrestling, it's about fundamental human conflicts that everyone can relate to. The Uso story is forcing fans to examine their own values. What matters more, success or relationships? Individual achievement or family bonds? Winning or loyalty? Different fans will have different answers to those questions, which is why the fan reaction has been so divided and so passionate. Have you ever had to choose between personal ambition and a relationship? What did you choose and do you regret it? Tell me in the comments. Jey Uso betraying Jimmy Uso in the Battle Royal is one of the most shocking and emotionally impactful moments WWE has delivered this year. It's compelling storytelling that has fans genuinely divided and emotionally invested. It raises real questions about ambition, loyalty, family, and sacrifice. And it sets up a long-term story that could define both brothers' careers for the next year. Whether you think Jey was justified or whether you think he's an unforgivable traitor, you care about this story. You're invested in what happens next. And that's ultimately what great wrestling storytelling accomplishes. I believe the Usos will eventually reunite and be stronger for having gone through this conflict. But the journey to that reunion is going to be painful, emotional, and absolutely compelling television. Smash that like button if you're emotionally invested in the Uso story. Subscribe to Wrestling Newsletter for more passionate, in-depth analysis of WWE's most compelling storylines. Turn on notifications so you never miss our coverage of this developing feud. This is Wrestling Newsletter, and I'll see you in the next video as we continue following this heartbreaking story and hoping that the Usos can eventually find their way back.